Hi folks, welcome to your latest planning outlook. This updated on Friday the 2nd of October. We're looking through the weekend and onwards into next week, and all in all it's a pretty unsettled story with low pressure in charge, rain frequent, some heavy and prolonged falls in places, with the risk of some flooding eastern Scotland and across Wales, the greatest risk of that. Temperatures, well, not particularly cold but not warm either, will likely become chillier as we head toward the middle of the week. We'll start off with a look at rainfall through the weekend, this in 3-hour accumulations. We start off the early hours of Saturday with some heavy rain across the south of Britain, a front which lies to the east of Scotland, which will be coming in on easterly winds to really set in across the eastern side of the Highlands through the day on Saturday. Some rain turning heavier across Wales, and as we go onwards through the morning, that rain just becoming ever more expansive across much of Britain. The western side of Scotland faring the best, with some hours dry here, and the far west coast may well get away with a largely dry day, but a bit of rain occasionally coming in from the east. But for many places onwards into Saturday afternoon, there's heavy rain across the board. The very heaviest falls then across the Pennines into the eastern side of Scotland as we head onwards into Saturday evening and night, as a conveyor belt of moisture comes in off the North Sea associated with a wraparound of fronts around low pressure. That will all rotate ever further westwards as we head onwards through the night into Sunday. As we go into Sunday daytime, the worst of that heavy rain likely to break up across Scotland. There's still areas of rain around, but the wraparound of the front still coming back into Wales, maybe just moving a bit further south as time goes on, and through Sunday afternoon maybe breaking up more widely into areas of showers. But if you get around one of these shower bands, rain could still be frequent, but some drier intervals will be around. The total rainfall accumulation through the weekend looking something like this, with extensive falls in excess of 50 mil and some places getting more like 70 to 100 mil. The eastern side of Scotland could easily get quite a bit more than that as that easterly moves into those eastern mountains, parts of Wales too, even across south and southwest England. Some of the high resolution models picking up on total accumulations around 100 mil. Western Scotland, by comparison, is still looking at around 30 mil or so, but by comparison to a heavy rainfall event that would come in off the Atlantic, it's a real reversal of fortunes across the Highlands on this occasion. So some concerns for flooding across eastern Scotland and across Wales as well through this weekend, becoming very wet underfoot in many of our mountain areas. These are the synoptic charts for the weekend just to show you then. We've got that low which is centred over France, but it's the fronts which rotate around it into eastern Scotland that produce that very heavy rainfall, and near the centre of the low, as the fronts just wind themselves round, that's where the heavy falls come in across Wales. In terms of wind speeds, well, really quite varied. Some places seeing a sustained lull, particularly across western Scotland, but just watch out for that easterly strengthening across the Highlands, maybe more so later on in the day. Across Wales and the Pennines, a north by northeasterly, turning northwesterly eventually across Wales, which could be strong, blustery at times, even up to gale force across the Welsh mountains. That may well be the case as we start Sunday as well across Wales, although again things will be changing through the day as that centre of the low pressure just rotates slowly around, and there could well be a widespread lull within the centre of the low. All the fronts then just winding themselves around it. As you can see, some heavy falls of rain for some, but also some gaps where things are drier, as we've seen on the rainfall so far. But bear in mind those sustained heavy falls that will have fallen by this time for that threat of flooding. Onwards into the early part of next week, and that low pressure area is still spinning around and various fronts rotating around it. Absolute detail is going to be very tricky. If anything, the wind flow coming round as a stronger westerly across England and Wales, with belts of showers coming in here maybe rather frequently. Still looking like an easterly across the far north of Scotland, with some rain coming in from the North Sea. Somewhere in between, lighter winds, maybe very little wind, and you might get away with a substantially dry day, but you'll do well if you completely avoid all of the showers. The low is centred just towards the northwest on Tuesday. Again, areas of showers rotating around that zone of low pressure. Some frequent rain coming in on that westerly wind into the west of England and Wales. Eastern Scotland by this stage is likely to be past the worst of the rain, as that general west by southwesterly wind is just moving a bit further northwards, so you're getting the shelter further toward the eastern side of the Highlands by this stage. Temperatures just trending downwards as we drag some cooler air in around off the North Atlantic. Heading into midweek, and it does look as though those strong westerlies are in evidence across many areas as the low is centred toward the north. Still belts of rain coming in off the Atlantic, some heavy showers around at times as well. And again, just that sense that cooler air is being pulled in across the country. By the end of the day, for example, it might just be that temperatures on the highest Scottish summits are not far off freezing point. You can see where that air is coming from as we look at the bigger picture, originating around the south of Greenland, being drawn towards us on those west by northwesterly winds. We're watching what happens to the next area of low pressure out over the mid-Atlantic through the middle of the week. Some uncertainty between the computer models just what this one does, but it likely runs into our existing low, which is very much a decayed feature by that stage. But it might just wind itself up again for the next batch of heavy rain and strong winds. The potential for something quite stormy from that system, if that does develop through the later part of the week. The basic message is one of being very unsettled, it must be said. Whether we get something as active as this or not, it's still wind and rain in the forecast later on in the week, and likely to stay with a cool west by northwesterly pattern as we head towards next weekend. Some showers of some rain, some snow and some hail on the higher mountains, and we might find that those higher Scottish tops are just at or below freezing point as we go into Friday and the start of next weekend. Perhaps just a glimmer as we go further forwards of higher pressure which lies to the west, then just starting to build, but that really I think is as we look more into the following week, so a good 10 days or so away at this stage. Stay up to date then with all the very latest details for your local area, updated every day on our website. Thanks for watching this video today. Bye for now.